Good morning. Hope you guys are having a lovely Sunday. See, Ricky's already here. That's my husband. And then non-sleeper. Good morning to you both. Just about done with my coffee. It's been a nice quiet morning here. It's been raining. It hasn't rained a hot minute as far as like how much rain we're about to get. So I'm looking forward to it. Hope you guys have been having a good weekend. I've been having a great weekend. Yesterday was my 20th birthday. So I had a great day. Adventured around Knoxville. Bought some books, some cute things. I got a new ramen bowl. I say new as if I already had one. I got a ramen bowl. It's like one like the pushing little cat on it. I'll just show it to you guys. How cute is this? So yeah, it's one of the things I got for my birthday. It was just a really, really good day, and then I ended it playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and then later in the night I switched over to Age of Wonders 4. So it was just an awesome day, but I'm happy to have the break, and I'm ready to hang out and sculpt with you guys now. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about what we are sculpting today. Okay. So this is a Patreon request. Everything that I sculpt on stream is a legendary request from Patreon. So I put a link in the chat of what that is. So essentially these are people that usually play tabletop games like Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder, and they want to bring their ideas to life. And so that's what we do on stream. And then they take these models and they can 3D print them, which is pretty darn cool. So you take these characters and you can 3D print them. This is actually done on FDM, believe it or not. And it's also a model that I've sculpted. So yeah, these little figures they use for these tabletop games, and they hang out with their friends and tell stories. It's a pretty good time. So yeah. This one is from Ave Rosso. And they say, I have one. My request is the Jester King. It's an evil usurper jester sitting sideways upon the throne, crowned upon his jester's cap, so yes, it means two hats. And I talked to them about it a bit more, and we settled on a style that's very similar to Darkest Dungeon, which is awesome because I love the Darkest Dungeon games. I'm a bit better at the second game than the first one, but either way, this will be heavily based on that character, and I have some references on how this pose is going to happen. So yeah. I do my best to make sure I put credit when I find the artist. Like this is Moonspot. If you look that up, you'll find them. This is from a book. Jason Wynn, and then this is the game Darkest Dungeon. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. All right, the first thing I do is I've opened my ZBrush like starting file. This is a file that I've created that kind of lets me do things a bit quicker. These are some base meshes I generated using a plugin called ZBuilder. I've modified it quite a bit, but most of the forms and the basic proportions came from ZBuilder. I went ahead and deleted the eyes and stuff because he won't have eyes anyway. Not any that are visible. And then we're gonna go ahead and jump into my tools I have here that are full of all these assets I've created over the years. So yeah, we're gonna see if there's anything that kind of matches what we have here. I'm looking at this character and I can tell you right now, I'm going to sculpt like almost all of this from scratch. There's a lot of unique pieces here. Especially because the Jester hat's kind of unique and floppy. I do have a Jester hat, which is this one, but it's not the style we're going for, so I'm not going to reuse that. None of these are going to be applicable, so I'll go ahead and delete the subtool. Now we're shopping in this new area. There's some basic shirts and stuff, but again, I'm just gonna sculpt that from scratch. Nope. The only thing that we're gonna actually reuse is a belt. You know what? We're so close to doing this all from scratch anyway. Maybe I'll just go ahead and do that. I mean, I got a Jester boot here. We can have one piece. I recently used this boot for Mrs. Claus too, actually. So sometimes these pieces see use in ways that I didn't anticipate when I first made them. It's always kind of fun. I'll go ahead and bring in this belt. All right, those are the only two pieces that I really see being useful. So let's get rolling. All right, I'm gonna hide all these pieces that I just imported, and we're gonna throw this little guy up to the far left. That will kind of serve as our step one stamp. So as we work on this model together, you guys can kind of reference this upper left corner and then see how far we've come. I'm also gonna brighten the screen for you guys just a touch, just so things are as easy to see as possible. How's that? And then maybe I'm gonna change my color, my UI today. I'm feeling a different color. None of these are very fun colors. I guess I'll just keep it gray. Maybe next stream I'll pick a more fun color. All right, let's start dressing them up. So this is kind of the first early stage of my stream where I take in my base mesh here and I start appending all these pieces that I've already created. I find it easiest to put on shoes by lining them up from the bottom and having perspective turn off. I can even turn on transparency and see that foot in there. Make sure it's fitting nicely. There we go. I do like in the reference where these boots are actually a lot taller, so let's go ahead and make these a bit taller. Also, this guy is like shredded. I'm gonna make him a bit lankier to match like this kind of lurching, lanky silhouette. As of now, he's just a bodybuilder. Don't mind that. And you'll notice that whenever I have these assets, I'm very careful to make sure they still have different polygroups. So for example, this base of the shoe here is separate from these stitches and that little ball. And that just makes it easiest to customize this as I go. So I'm gonna split this base into its own piece. Also gonna start poly painting. All right, we've got this piece right here. And we're gonna start making it taller. To do that, I just grab a mask and then stretching this upwards with the 3D gizmo. Going with my move brush and just kind of making sure that the structure of the shoe still has some integrity. Excuse me. It's been a great weekend though. Again, it's always fun celebrating birthdays. It's my first time celebrating birthday in a new state entirely. All my other birthdays have been in California. And then on Saturday, I went with my husband and we bought a bunch of hay for my horse. Just stocked up for the winter. We bought about, 83 bales, so it's like 3,500 pounds worth. And that's just for one horse. They eat a lot. I don't like this lip on this shoe. I think it looks kind of silly. So I'm gonna use my trim dynamic brush and crush that down. And we're gonna build up these forms and kind of replace what I just removed. So the best way to do that is go with my inflate brush and then dynameshing. So I'm pulling the shape up with my move brush, and we're gonna rebuild this trim by manually sculpting these forms. It's just kind of quick and dirty right now. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now let's go ahead and clean up that form. This isn't the way that I normally make shoes, but since I'm just kind of building upon this asset I already have, I'm doing a very sculptural approach. Using trim to hit dynamic to get kind of like these nice, clean, blocked in forms. And then I'll come in with damp standard and lazy mouse enable to kind of drag on these seams. Doesn't need to be perfect, but a bit of structure here will really help this read more cleanly. All right, that's looking good enough. Pleased with that. Running over with an inflate brush to really kind of bring all these seams together. And also going to outline a few more of them. There we are. And now let's go ahead and continue the stitching all the way up his leg. To fit this better, I'm going to use my move brush and make sure it's going to line up. There we go. Now I'll come in and grab some stitches and duplicate them up the leg. Taking my time to make sure each one of these lines up. Again, these are pretty messy and sculptural, but it actually suits the model I'm going to be sculpting today. There we go. Pretty simple, and all those like kind of chunky details, they're gonna hold paint really well, and this is 3D printed. All right, we have a boot, just one. So right now these are all separate pieces, so I'm gonna bring them together to be one. First things first, gonna make sure I'm managing my poly count as I go. And then whenever I do any adjustments on these assets I think is really substantial enough to warrant being its own piece, I'll go ahead and re-export this and re-add it back into my asset library. That's kind of how this process goes. I'm gonna adjust the silhouette a bit more. Turning on transparency to see how this is fitting the body underneath. The sole is a bit of a goofy shape, but I usually make the bottom of the model perfectly flat anyway to have the most connection with the base, so I'm not too fussed about that. I'll go ahead and make them a bit taller though, and that'll give me more room to work with later. All right, there we go, got some boots. I go ahead and export that, and that will be organized into my asset library at a later time. Looks good. All right, I'm gonna reduce the size of this quad muscle right here, and I'm just gonna kind of block that in quickly. There we go. That's closer to the silhouette that I want to build up here. I might fit these pants to him. I might just make them from scratch. It doesn't take very much time. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. We're just gonna fit those in really quickly here. All right, so to create a pair of pants, you just grab your mask pen brush, you mask the area that you want to select, and then you extract. I like to extract at 0 thickness, and I can add that back in later. Just gives you more control over the forms, and especially because I designed for 3D printing, it just makes things a little easier to manage. Alright, so now I'm going to adjust the silhouette of the pants here. This is really, really important. The way that the clothes actually lay on the body gives the character a lot of information just about what their silhouette looks like, and whether or not it's their pants are baggy, or if they're torn, or if they're really skin tight. All of those are really important details. This is kind of a mixture right here between a slim fit but not being skin tight. So I'll make sure that I capture that while I'm moving these forms around. Looks pretty good. All right, I'm happy with that. Moving right along to the belt. I like that these pants kind of stick out on the top too. So I'll make sure to keep that detail. Later on when I sculpt fabric folds, that'll be a fun area to add a lot of compression. So now making sure this belt fits the body, paying a lot of special attention to the thickness between the farthest edge of the belt and the body. I'm also gonna make the belt a bit thinner using my 3D gizmo. Very nice. I think this needs to be a bit taller, so I'll go ahead and mask the top of the pants. Pull upwards, and then I can probably use a taper modifier. I have to be a little closer to get that to work, so instead I'll just go with the inflate brush and I'll get a very similar effect. Excellent. All right, moving right along. Let's go ahead and block in the shirt. Non-sleeper asks, are you inflating the pants or moving them? I'm kind of doing a combination of both, honestly. To get that little flare on the top, I use the inflate brush. Good question. Like always, I'm super open to answering questions about my process. I try to kind of chatter as I get through, work through the model. But if there's anything that I'm not covering, let me know. All right, so for this next part here, looks like he's got this long sleeve shirt and then these tall gloves that fit over them. Again, he's quite buff. We're gonna obscure a lot of that under this shirt, and if I need to, I'll go through and I'll lean out that musculature to match. fair amount of this is going to be obscured by all of this clothing too. So I'm not worried about the collar fitting perfectly or anything like that, since we're not going to be seeing it. That being said, I still like to kind of check my bases and make sure things are at least tidy. All right, gonna leave that right where it's at. And now we're gonna start adding these gloves. In some areas, it looks like they're on top, some they're tucked under. In this case, for a very clear silhouette, I'm gonna make them on top, and I'm gonna have them shredded, kind of similar to the way the top of the pants are. Looks like they go just under the elbow, so go ahead and mask that point and extract. Since I masked off of the body, it's gonna include all of the fingernails, so a really quick way to get rid of that is clicking auto groups, selecting the part that I want, and then clicking delete hidden. Now let's go ahead and remesh these gloves. This red here is a little too, it's not really the color that I'm wanting, so I'm gonna pick a new color. There, I like that one a lot more. There we are. So this is going to be 3D printed. It's not gonna be rigged for like any like animations or anything like that. I just do the poly paint because I think it's a lot of fun. I also think it makes the streams a bit more interesting to watch. There we are. And these are going to be fairly skin tight as well, so I'm gonna be making all those adjustments to make sure this fits. I'm actually gonna trim the top just a touch. There we go. All right, so there's gonna be a couple straps on this, and then one side has a weapon, but I'm not gonna be copying this design exactly anyhow. Non-sleeper asks if tiny hands are coming up. They're referring to this goofy technique I do. Instead of posing the fingers individually, I bring in a pre-made hand. But no, I'm not doing that right now. I'll let you guys know when I do though, because it looks very silly. So again, we're still just finding all of these base shapes here. Like these straps here, they don't fit perfectly, and that's a-okay. Just kind of playing with what forms I'm gonna want in this model before I start detailing anything. It's really important that you have all your primary forms found and really clear before you start building upon them. I like to use extrude instead of Q-mesh, because Q-mesh tries to talk to the other like polys that are next to it, and I want these to be independent. There we are. And then we can add some buckles. I have this really nice bucklet brush that I got on ArtStation, I believe. There we are. Let's go ahead and mirror and weld this. There we go. Making our way up, and this is gonna be the most interesting part, is going to be the head of this model. I'm really excited to make this hat. Hello is here. Hello, welcome back. Hello says, hey Mia in chat, hope everyone's doing well. I'm moving on to clothing soon with my project, so this stream is great for getting some tips. Oh, perfect. Yeah, if you have any questions, especially like follow-up, like I kind of narrate as I go, but I'm happy to be extra specific as needed. All right. The fun part's coming up. So first we're gonna create this this shawl, and I like to base that off the body that's underneath it. So that's a pretty similar shape. Let's go ahead and extract that, and that will be a nice starting point. I'm using ZRemesher with half enabled to really clean up those forms quickly, and then also polish my features. So I have everything docked in my custom UI, so if you were to open ZBrush and try to find these buttons, you're not going to be able to find them. But if you need to know like where these buttons are buried in these menus, let me know. I'm happy to share. The only reason I don't say them like right away off the top of my head is because I don't always remember. I usually have to take a second or two to go find them because I'm so used to my own custom UI. I've been using it for years. All right, so I'm going to talk about how I'm approaching this piece here. So I'm breaking it down just to kind of in its primary forms first. So what that means is like, what is the simplest shape I can draw here? So all of these little points and stuff are actually fairly complicated. But if I just kind of like squint my eyes and it makes like a blurry shape, it looks like an oval. Very simple, right? So that's what I've done here. I've created that oval. So that's what I mean by like primary, secondary forms. Now they have this oval, what's next? Well, let's look at secondary forms. That's where you start seeing all these triangles being pulled off of it. So I'm going to build that into this. The topology is pretty good. I'm mostly just looking for even points, and I like if there is a line of quads all the way around the trim here. It just makes it easier to add trim later on, and you guys will see that. I'm going to ZRemesh once because I kind of want a little bit more polygons to deal with here because I'm going to be distorting the shape so much. That's a bit better. All right, now that we have this, I'm going to start pulling these shapes off. I'm going to do a quick count. So it looks like he has 4 across his chest. And I'm not doing the counting to make sure I copy it as closely as possible. I'm actually doing the counting to make sure that my proportions line up. So I'm going to pull 1 kind of by the armpit and then 2 across the chest. And I can tell right now that's not quite looking the way that that reference is, and there's a couple reasons for that. There we go. I want to make sure there's these upside down triangle shapes as well. So we got down and then up. There we go. And then also there's a couple other subtle details happening here where they kind of follow this curve. So they're not all going to be the exact same height. Pretty close. And then same with how narrow they are. All right, it's pretty good. And we'll continue that. Now that I've kind of made it some of these secondary forms, I can imagine how those laid and continue that spacing throughout the rest of the model. But notice that I'm not just pulling these triangles down. I'm taking special attention to come back and then give that upside down triangle too. I would like if the bottom or the back here was actually a bit longer, and that's just a personal preference. It makes it look like he's wearing more of like a cape. Big fan of capes. Something else I'm noticing is that the stitching here kind of like pushes his shoulders out to be square. So let's make sure that we address that. I'm gonna go in with my standard brush, damp standard brush, and holding down Alt will bring up a sharp edge. All right. I'll really dig into that form later when I'm doing all the details and stitching and stuff. But here's a good starting point. And then every one of these flaps has a ball on the end of it. And they're actually bells, it looks like. So let's go ahead and create a bell. I'm going with my insert primitives. Insert a sphere. God, my voice is so gravelly still. 1 second. Sometimes in the morning, like, it just takes a hot minute for my voice to like warm up. Alrighty. Finished my coffee, had some water. I think we're good. Go ahead and find this kind of like warm gold color this is going to be. Perfect. And now we're creating that bell. So there's a couple of ways that we can do this. I'm going to want symmetry to be on 2 axes, so let's go ahead and do that. You go to transform, click activate symmetry, and we have it on the X axis, which means left and right. But I also want to be front and back, which I believe is going to be Y. I'm going to click a uniform to make sure this is centered. Yeah, it looks like that was top and bottom, so not Y, but Z. I always forget which one it is. You'll notice that I clicked uniform or unify, and that just makes sure that this is center in the scene. Otherwise, the axes won't line up. You can click local and that will work, but I don't always trust that to work. All right, so first things first, I see this bell has a bit of a taper to it, so we're gonna pull the shape of this down. We're also gonna Z-remesh by half. It's a bit flatter on top, isn't it? There we go. And we can go ahead and punch in these holes. I'm using the move brush and Alt. I'm doing a really quick and dirty, like, sculpted bell here. It looks really, really silly. Trust the process. And now going with my stamp sander brush, and we're gonna carve out these lines, kind of harshly. All right, I'm going to divide once so I have a bit more polys to work with here, and then just kind of run over these forms again. I could have absolutely modeled this instead, but it's a pretty small detail, so I don't mind just doing a really quick and dirty sculpt for this. Kind of looks like a little demented face, doesn't it? Gonna run over to geometry and clay polish. And again, these are gonna be really small, just like that. I just wanted to have any sort of definition on it. And I really kind of like exaggerated those forms a lot too, so that they will catch some paint. Aloha said, I felt overwhelmed when approaching clothing and hard surface modeling, but I realized it's similar to soft tissue. Rough basic forms to start and slowly refine as you add polygons. Absolutely, and it's actually the same answer and advice I give to people that every now and then I have students that want to follow my concepts and courses with Blender. And it is trickier because you have to like figure out the layout of the software and stuff, but like the principles of sculpting are always the same. You have large forms and then you slowly refine them down. So I'm not going to export this and save this asset because this bell looks ridiculous, but it's so small that I'm fine with it. But I don't want to keep it. But I want to do a better job if I'm going to keep it. All right. I kind kind of like that. It looks like weird little faces because this is a kind of a grim dark model. You'll notice I'm only doing one side here. And that's because I can just mirror and weld after the fact. This pose is gonna be pretty elaborate too because it's sitting across a throne. So I'm gonna keep that in mind too when I'm doing the fabric details, because I don't want to be too elaborate with the details, because when you pose, you're always gonna have to do a little bit of re-sculpting. And I'd hate to make this super detailed and then crush a lot of those details with the pose. Generally, I like to sculpt in symmetry, but for some stuff, it's worth waiting. All right, there we are. Taylor's here. Hello, welcome back. A jester. Yes, exactly. Not just any jester, but it'll be a jester king. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And then, oh, someone new is here, or at least I haven't seen you comment before. Devastator Omega. Oh, that's a fun name. I'm going to call you Devastator because that's awesome. Devastator says, just want to say phenomenal work. Oh, thank you. Gosh, I always appreciate people tune in just to be nice. That's awesome. All right, we're really starting to get into like the interesting parts of this model here. Also, now that I have this here, I can see that the proportions are different in my references here, which is pretty common. I like this one where it's lower and he has like this very high-waisted look. This is actually the character art from Darkest Dungeon 2, so they had refined the character a bit since then. So let's go ahead and go in here and pull these down in this to match. Again, I want that kind of like sweeping curve. All right, there we are. And I like the broad shoulder look as well. Because again, it's a jester, but he has usurped the throne, and so this is going to be a jester king. There'll be some interesting motifs throughout this model. So it's going to be the most powerful, arrogant looking jester you've ever seen. And then I don't like that this isn't close enough to his neck. I might give him like a scarf to sit on top of this as well. We'll see, I'm not sure. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and drop a hard save, and I think pretty soon here we're gonna be working on this ridiculous hat, which I am excited and nervous about. He also has this really spooky mask, but I'll deal with that in a bit. But I probably will poly paint this to be white just so it stands out a bit nicer. And then let's go find that gold color one more time. There we go. All right. It's hat time. I'm thinking there's a lot to manage with this hat. Kind of has like this cap on, and then these pieces are hanging off of it. So I can approach this in a couple different ways. I can make each flap here its own piece, and then blend the seams after the fact. What do I want to do here? Aloha asks, is that curved strap stamp brush you often use a default one? Yes, ma'am. Or sir. I actually don't know. Taylor says, curled boot tips. Yes, I think they're fun. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna do this in 2 pieces. Hats are tricky. Yeah, he kind of has like this turtleneck underneath as well. So there's gonna be a series of pieces here. And this kind of like tucks all the way down, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Okay, interesting. So I'll need to flatten his ears too. Let's go ahead and do that now. We're just going to go in trim dynamic and crush his ears into the nothing. And we're actually going to re-extract this cowl then. There we go. So this is gonna be a fun balance of kind of making sure I like all my base forms, but also moving on to that next piece and not spending too much time reforming. There's kind of like a headband look to this, so we're gonna bring out that form a touch. And I'm also gonna create that neck piece right now, because it is kind of like this like black turtleneck. I mentioned earlier, thinking about giving him almost like this like scarf right here, so that will kind of serve that purpose. All right, we have our initial pieces here. Gosh, it's really silly, isn't it? And then this needs to be lower and very flat across. So I need to find that corner here. Same with his head, it's gonna be a bit flatter on top, but I don't wanna crush his head. We're gonna build around that form. All right, we have some base shapes happening here. It's fun constructing complex shapes like this. That's why I was saving it for last too. I also wanted to make sure it's kind of like stylistically matching the rest of the model. And then we're gonna be blending a lot of these seams from these flaps up here. I'm gonna be adding this big thick stitching anyway, so this would be a nice way to do it. All right, it's time to create this flap here. I'm trying to decide if I want to work with or without thickness. I pretty much always do it just one-sided polys and then add it later on. But in this case, oh, it's kind of tricky, isn't it? If I make them straight without any thickness, I can then pose them more later and can really like dramatize that pose. I think I would like to have the option. Taylor's asking about the face and suggests a curled chin to match the boots. I can see that being fun. He's gonna have a mask on, so I can really do whatever I want with that. I'll keep that in mind. I think that'd be a good motif, and a strong chin will also kind of help with this like arrogant Jester King character we're building here. I think we're gonna do single-sided polys. Yes. All right, I'm gonna duplicate this hat and just mask a piece off of it and delete. And we just have this panel now. I'm gonna zero mesh by half to get that nice line of quads on the edge. See, this is what I'm trying to avoid. This triangle nonsense. No, zero mesh, go away. There, that's nicer. I'm gonna have double turned on, because if I don't have double turned on, what happens is when I flip this mesh around, it doesn't exist. So as you can see, exists, doesn't exist. That's really hard to work with. So if you turn on double, it will show both sides. It's just important that I don't forget later on to make this a real object. Otherwise, it will not 3D print. I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I've never forgotten, so I'm not too worried about it. Interesting, interesting. Really taking my time here thinking about these shapes, because the way that they drape is really important. So since I have pretty much this straight line here, I'm gonna go in with a bend curve deformer, and this will allow me to actually bend it to the head. I could also use a move brush, but isn't this more fun? Look how cool this is. And what's even cooler about this is I can click on these nodes and I can manually taper or widen them. So this is definitely going to be the tool and the way to do this. You could use this same method to make hair too, honestly. Non-sleeper says, time for a progress stamp and save. Nope, not yet. We're not done blocking out yet. All right. Once I get this hat done and the mask, then all of the basic pieces will be pretty much found, and then we'll add another piece to the storyboard here. All right, so it's really important that I'm looking at proportions here and kind of seeing how everything lines up. Again, they're different proportions in all four of these references, even though it's the same character. It's pretty normal to see like different concept art, because again, they've done 2 different video games at this point, so I'm just gonna pick my favorite. I really enjoy how long they are in this reference that they refined in Darkest Dungeon 2. So I'm gonna follow that one a little bit more closely. And then Taylor said, you mean to say you can't print a sheet the thickness of infinitely less than the size of an atom? Drat. I know, right? Free printers. Slacking. But I will say, oh my goodness, they are getting a lot better. But yeah, no. We can't print nothingness. Oh, and Taylor, you were having a hard time getting your 3D gizmo to snap, and I sent you kind of like step by step, like written out steps on how to do that. But let me know if you want me to like visually demonstrate that. Oh, I have a new subscriber. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Jim is the same name as my dad, and his birthday was 3 days ago. Just sharing. Also the same name as my grandpa. We have a lot of Jims in my family. Alrighty. Let's keep this going. And then again, I'm not sure if you missed that. Just say it one more time, Taylor. If you need me to do like a live demo on how to use that gizmo, please let me know. Like, I know you know how to use it, but some of these little shortcuts and keys are really tricky to get the hang of. So right now I'm trying to rotate this node right here. But everything is just doing the thickness. I know you know how to do something other than that, ZBrush. There we go. I swear I just did that. All right. So I'm really taking my time to make sure that this piece here is laying just the way I want it to. And then Ricky, adding on to the sarcasm, says, didn't you hear Allego's new 1 million K resolution printer? That's how I feel about like the 8K, honestly. I'm like, that can't actually make a difference, does it? We'll see. Maybe we'll try it out one day. All right, and so it's important that these are significantly longer than the shawl. So you want to, like, the same way when you're illustrating, like in like a 2D format, like pen and paper, you want to avoid tangents. So you don't want to have like this element end at the exact same point as like the shawl, because it just makes it really hard to read. So you need to pick, there always has to be a shape that wins. Otherwise it just becomes a mess and it's hard to read. All right, I'm liking this flap. My goodness, it is very long. This is going to be a really interesting, tricky model. I'm avoiding it right now, and I'm like messing with the shawl again. Okay, my confidence is back. We're going to duplicate this and start moving them around. I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these bells and add it to this flap here, just so that when I duplicate and move these around, I don't have to manually pin them on. These bells are a travesty. Oh my gosh, they get the job done, but don't look at them too hard. Why did it turn black? Why? No. There we go. And then I believe that I already duplicated one of these. Yeah, let's go ahead and delete that. Okay, now we have this piece. So we're gonna start building this hat, and I'm hoping it works. Duplicate and mirror. We have 2 flaps now. Looking weird. Looking like hair. I'm gonna go with my pinch brush. It's also, in fact, they have 0 thickness. It's kind of odd. duplicate this again. Okay, it's working. This is actually gonna work. Excellent. I always believed in myself. I don't know how many points there needs to be. This is working. Excuse me. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and get this mask on here because that's the current thing that looks the weirdest now, is this completely blank face. It's gonna be kind of a tricky mask to create because it's so flush to his face. So I'm kind of debating just sculpting his face, but then I don't know how to close his mouth without remeshing it. So we are gonna just add a mask. Best way to do that is to draw a mask on here, mask to mask, and then extract that. Perfect, looks great. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete the eyes and the teeth. This is going to be that really pale, scary white. That's already looking kind of like a mask. And then I'm going to make sure the eyes underneath are pitch black. Friendly. There we go. Oh, that's really scary. Okay. And then go ahead and inflate this a bit. That does look fairly mask-like already, but we need to really massage the forms here, and we need to get rid of his mouth. So, and his nose. There's a lot going on. So do that, I'm gonna inflate the mouth and then Z mesh with half turned on, and it will start to kind of overlap these forms for me. Or it's supposed to anyway. It's still there. Why is this mouth here? Stop. I don't want the eyes getting too small. All right, even though there's not really a nose, there still needs to be the shape of it. So we're gonna keep this like triangular shape happening, and then really cinching in these high, spooky cheekbones. I'm also gonna move everything forward a touch, just so it sits off the face. I'm also gonna go ahead and just smooth the face underneath so I don't have to worry about those forms. All right, that's happening. Wow, that's terrifying. Oh my God, we're working on it. Then Eric is here. Hi, nice to meet you. Looks very awesome. Thank you, I appreciate that. Also, welcome. Non-Sleeper says, welcome to the chat, Eric, as well. And Aloha says, I love how you went about building the hat and its long strands. It looks amazing already. Oh, thank you so much. I was definitely looking at this and I'm like, this is a really tricky shape and I wasn't quite sure how to approach it, so I appreciate the vote of confidence. Taylor adds, it'd be cool if he had a shield in the theme of a playing card. Ooh, that'd be really cool. Especially because the diamond would fit so well with that. He's gonna be sitting in a throne, kind of like lopsided like this. So there's not gonna be space for a shield per se, but I could incorporate some playing card elements into the throne itself. So very good suggestion, and I'm gonna be paying that forward in my head. Good one, good one. Oh my gosh, that mask is horrifying, and look how indented. This is why you have to rotate your models as you work, because that happens. Oh, and earlier Taylor also suggested that kind of curled chin, and I really think it's gonna play well. So I'm just gonna start finding that form here. Also going with my standard brush very carefully to build up that jaw and the cheekbones. And a brow. We're really gonna have to, because this mask is obscuring so many recognizable features, like, you know, a nose and a mouth, you have to be careful to kind of still show semblances of them. It's kind of like the bone like landmarks, and that will make it more recognizable and interesting to see. You can see even in the concept art here that there's a very like sharp cut on the chin and the cheekbones, even the bridge of the nose. So we're gonna keep all of those in mind. Same with the eye shape. It looks like it kind of curves upwards here and then has this really nice dramatic downward angle. Why is this not grabbing? Come on, ZBrush. Oh, because it's a big ugly triangle. This is what happens when you have rotten topology, so it doesn't want to deform because it can't. There's just one line there. There's two ways that I can fix this. I can Z-remesh on same, and that should not destroy it too much. Perfect, that did a good job. I also could have gone in manually with a Z-modeler brush and added some edge loops. But if I don't have to, like, I'll have ZBrush do it for me, and it did. All right, this upside down triangle is gonna be important. I'm not gonna mess with the eyes too much right now. I'm just gonna kind of pull these shapes here to remind myself to build these up later. And these are gonna tilt upwards. There we go. Isn't that cool? This is gonna work great. And Taylor adds, yes, perhaps a playing card folded into the chair seat and back cushion. I think that'd be great. His tiny, tiny nose is too tiny. Also, they did it differently. So instead of having it, it's kind of like just straight up and down as if this was a like fabric mask almost. I do like that better than what I have. So I'm gonna add that curve here. It's kind of just a nicer shape too. I still need to be confident about where this brow bone is though. So it's gonna pull that out in this shape forward. I find when in doubt, just make the nose on your character bigger. It usually looks better. And I think it's an upside down triangle that we're working with here. I'm still bringing this form out too much though. I'm doing it like in an illustrative style and it doesn't want to be that. What in the world? Okay. It's going to be an upside down. Oh, okay, I know what I'm missing. I figured it out. It's a point. And this is also way too low and too small. Everything was wrong. That's why it looked wrong. Sometimes that's just the answer, honestly. That's better. I was wondering, I'm like, what the heck? Something is not right. And it was everything. Gotcha. Let's pull this up. Oh, that's really horrifying. Cool, 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 cool. And then I'll need to be adjusting the form underneath as well because his head is sticking out. Because again, oh, that's that's really terrible. Okay. This is the base mesh underneath the model. Don't worry about this. This is not going to be visible. It is awful. Wow. Awesome. Okay. Put that away. And I can really let this mask get kind of uncanny and kind of push some rules here. I don't want to work on it too much more because I'm kind of overworking it already. Interesting. Very interesting. Very odd. Also, the colors here could be better. Let's go ahead and do just that. Mask being white, very white. And then I like this deeper red that I found recently. There's also no gradients on this model yet, and that's kind of my bread and butter. So let's go ahead and add some of those in. That's better. And then this needs to be lower band here. And this will also come forward. Yes. All right, it's happening. Aloha says, having a super cursed base mesh that was hidden this whole time is a staple of ZBrush, right? And just in case anybody missed it, this is what we're dealing with underneath. right, let's go ahead and add the stamp here. We have an interesting, a pretty clear idea that's been developed. Very nice. Okay, we are an hour into the stream. I'm pretty happy with what we have rolling right now. It is noon. I'm going to take a quick break here, probably like 5 minutes. I'll be right back. And then my housemates are actually making a really delicious lunch, so I might have a longer break than usual. Not this one, but the next break. Okay. If you're having a good time, like the stream. It really does help. If you're having a really good time, really good time, subscribe. That way, YouTube will remind you when I stream in the future. Though I am really consistent. I stream Thursday through Monday, always at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And I usually stream for 1 to 3 hours, somewhere in that range. Again, taking a quick break right now. I will be back in about 5 minutes, returning about 5 p.m. ET. Okay. But if you have any questions, feel free to load up the chat with some questions, and I'll get back to all of them when I return. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Be right back. All right, looks like Ricky's giving some advice about 3D printing and all that goodness. And then Aloha says, I always imagine Ricky is majestically riding a horse whilst chatting in the stream. That's how I imagine him too. Very good husband. Except Ricky doesn't really ride. I ride my horse. Ricky does occasionally. Alrighty. Well, I'm really happy with the way that this is coming together so far. I'm least happy with the mask. I think it looks really goofy. But we have some good shapes that we're discovering here. So let's go ahead and find these shapes, shall we? Ricky says, I am the shadow husband. No, I think everyone agree that you're more of a white knight type. Alrighty. I'm gonna throw up a timer here. And the reason that I do this, so I like to have a timer on screen just for me to make sure I'm kind of moving at a good pace, but also to prevent me from over sculpting and overworking something. So I'm gonna put 30 minutes on the clock here, and my goal here is to start refining shapes. So let's start refining those shapes, shall we? As of now, I'm pretty happy with our 1 hour progress. And then Hayden Gibbons is here. Hey, I think you're new. Hi and welcome. I'm gonna call you Gibbons, it's a fun name. And then it says, oh yeah, oh, you're culpable Corvid. Awesome, on Discord. Yeah, thanks so much for joining. Very cool. Very nice. I think, yeah, you also just joined Patreon too, which is really cool. So double thank you. Yeah, so we're sculpting this Jester King right now. This is a request from another patron. And it's kind of a unique one. So we're gonna have this Jester, but he's usurped the throne. So that's gonna be pretty cool. Oh, and a new subscriber. Thank you so much, Gerson Rodriguez. All right, thank you. Man, stream is lively right now. I like it. All right, let's get our timer going before we get more distracted talking with y'all, and we're gonna get rolling. I really want to start building up these forms to be more clear. He has some really interesting ideas here, primarily all of this stitching, and I'm not trying to just straight up copy the character from Darkest Dungeon 2, but it's hard not to because it's so cool. But by the time I'm done with it, it will look different. All right. And then Hayden said, yeah, just jumped into the rear tier. Nice, nice. All right. I'm gonna kind of do the same treatment when I blocked out this model. So we started the stream here with just this kind of basic male figure. We've built up all these clothing now, and now it's time to kind of go in and make this interesting and fun to print. So I'm gonna start just kind of playing with this stitching on the pants. First thing I'm gonna do is make sure that it's actually a 3D printable thing. As of right now, it's actually hollow and does not exist. So I'm gonna go ahead and do close holes operation. Very nice. And then I'm going to need to add a crease modifier to the top to make sure that when I subdivide, it doesn't just smooth out into nothing. All right, you've done that. And now let's start adding some stitching. There's a few ways I'm gonna do this. First and foremost, we're gonna add this just simple classic seam down the side. And I'll even do a double stitch. I have Lazy Mouse turned on, which really helps kind of keep this nice and smooth. Very good. And then Hayden said, yeah, sub, Discord, and Patreon all at once. Man, awesome. How did you find my work? I'm just curious. It's always nice seeing like people kind of discover me and like kind of jump on the bandwagon right away. I dig that. All right, and then I'm also gonna add a similar seam at the top here. This is where the model really kind of starts to come to life when you start adding all these finer details. Some days my favorite part is blocking out. Today I definitely was looking forward to this part of the stream. Add that center stitch here. Kind of just has one stitch down the center, doesn't it? Also, we'll have some seams down inside, and that will be turned on with symmetry. Very nice. All right, now I can start kind of going in here and adding like what's fun about it, which in this case is gonna be like this patchwork. So I'm probably gonna carve out the shapes with Dam Standard and then maybe add some manual large stitching, and I'll show you guys how I do that. Let's add a patch. right here. And I'll inflate those seams, give them a little bit more substance. And now let's go ahead and add a stitch. So to add a stitch, I'm actually going to create a ring. Give it this nice rich red color. And we're going to get rid of half of this. There we go. We're going to zero mesh so it has a lower poly count just because it doesn't need to be very high. There we go. Now that we have a piece of the stitch here, let's go ahead and add it to that patch. So I'm going to do all of the patches and these kind of details first, and then I'll add fabric folds after the fact. That way it kind of deforms naturally with the model. There we go. I'm doing these really large, exaggerated stitches for a couple reasons. One, I think they look fun stylistically, and two, that way they actually print. And I'll probably add some different textures here too. So again, I have these big stitches here, but I'll also go through with the standard and kind of add those like illustrative, stylistic cross-hatching lines. There you go. What do you guys think? And then Gibbon said, oh, you've been on my radar since you finished the original Monster Manual. I just haven't been in the position recently to actually support until now. That would be Miguel, if you're talking about who like makes free models. I did release a lot of free models at the beginning of my career. But I also like to just be perfectly transparent. People confuse Miguel and I a lot. One, we're really good friends. And two, we both have shared a lot of free models in the community. Primarily Miguel though. Gosh, my voice is all catchy right now. Sorry. That being said, goodness, I probably darn near have enough models to cover the entire Monster Manual. I have about, I'm just under 1,000 models right now. All right, let's continue adding some more details and stitching lines here. I think it'd be fun to have a lot of asymmetric detailing too. There we go. I also like adding this stripe right here too, because it's very Jester-esque to have these long stretching lines too. Lois says, I love the bulky stitches you made to go on top. Looks great, adds a ton with just simple shapes. Thank you, I agree. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know this, but I've been doing this for full time for 5 years. In the beginning, everything that I released was for free on Thingiverse. And in the last few years, I was gonna stop doing that. One second. I'll be taking a break pretty soon here because I'm going to have lunch. And then I'll be back and hanging out with y'all. Made some pretty darn good progress here, and these are gonna be so much fun. I hope I didn't give Gibbons a heart attack. Yeah, I am not indeed Miguel. But I have made a lot of models. Gibbon says, wow, yes, I definitely mix you two up. Honestly, the work is so incredible. I'd love to stick around. Oh yeah, no problem at all. For a second there, I was like, if you need to, I can give you a refund. I do not mind. But also really happy to have you here. And Miguel's awesome too. So MZ4250 is his username. And again, we were so similar in the beginning. I mean, he's been doing it for longer than I have. He's been doing it for 10 years. I've been doing it for 5. But that's partly why I stopped sharing my stuff for free on Thingiverse, because it was so confusing between the two of us. And I found that I do want to do this full time. And he is actually retired military, so he has his retirement and stuff. And I'm fresh out of college. I graduated in 2019 with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. And I was like, I probably shouldn't rely on people donating. I probably should sell my stuff too. So I've been doing a mix of both recently. I'm actually looking into doing like a freebie Friday because I have quite a few people that follow me for free on Patreon, and I want to kind of make sure everyone gets treated. Obviously, spoiling my rare and legendary patrons the most. But yeah. Given says, agree with Lo, the chunky look is perfect for prints. Yeah, cool, thank you. I'm glad you guys are excited about it. Okay, I'm gonna go eat lunch, and I'll be back in 15 minutes. It's kind of a long break, but I might be back a little bit earlier. At the very latest, I'll be back at 12:30. I usually don't have lunch, or lunch on stream, but my housemates are home for the weekend and making this like delicious turkey burger, so I'm really excited. Okay, thank you guys so much for being here, though. I really, really, really appreciate y'all. In the meantime, if you want to like kind of, most of y'all already know me on Patreon and stuff. If you want to know what this is all about, this is what it's all about. All right, I'll be back. Thank you guys so much for being here. a super good lunch, nice and quick. It seems like most of you guys actually waited and hung out for me, so thank you. Really appreciate it. Looks like non-sleeper had to go. No worry. They're here for most of my streams anyhow, so I'll probably see them tomorrow. All right, let's get right back into it, okay? I'm gonna restart my timer because most of that I was not here. And there we are. All right, got 30 minutes on the clock and let's start detailing. So I'm just having a lot of fun with this, just kind of making the pants kind of ripped up, asymmetrical, all that good stuff. I think having one leg striped entirely would be a nice touch. And I can add some of those kind of hash marked stitching to it as well. Excellent. And we're not too far away here from adding all the fabric folds. I'm gonna add a few of these stitching details to the other leg. To do that, we're gonna mask the section that I want and duplicate it. I've been experimenting posing in Character Creator 4. I don't have anything to show for that quite yet, but some models like this, which are gonna be posed like over a throne or something, I'm not gonna bother with Character Creator. That's gonna be posed by me in ZBrush stuff. Usually I'm a little more careful. I don't like adding stitches to like knees or elbows because they bend, obviously, but I can move those down if I need to later. All right, almost done adding this base detailing here, and then we will go ahead and start with fabric folds. There we are. All right, so fabric folds, I pretty much do using just one brush. I pretty much go with the standard brush and lazy radius turned to about 30 or so. I have a pretty high intensity, somewhere around 40, but again, your intensity will vary based on how large your canvas is. So if 40 isn't looking the same for you, then just do what looks right. There we are. And now I'm detailing this out of symmetry because the patterns here are so different. So the fabrics can interact differently when there's a seam or not a seam. I also kind of want this looser, baggier look on this leg. I'm a huge fan of asymmetrical details. It really kind of brings the model to life. The back's the same, and he's also going to be sitting on a throne, so I'm not too worried about this looking interesting because a lot of it's not even going to be visible. You might wonder like why bother detailing it all then, and that's because some of it does end up showing, and I like having all my bases covered. All right, now for this side, I'm gonna turn off symmetry and we're gonna start pulling some stitching away from these seams here. These are gonna be kind of like little tight fabric folds in tension. Really going in here with like a heavy hand to make sure that these are printable because these are such small little fabric folds. I'm gonna come back to my other side here and build up these forms a bit more. The size of your fabric folds will also help convey what kind of material it is. So in this case, it's kind of like a medium thickness. The thicker your fabric folds are, the thicker the material will come across. So if you want like a silky dress, you're gonna want really, really thin, sharp folds, for example. You want to be careful not to do too much in symmetry. All right, I think that's looking good without looking too overworked. I'm gonna run over this with my inflate brush just a touch, and that will bring kind of some of the seams together and prevent any of the meshes from clipping through each other. All right, looking good. Hayden asks, will there be a non-thrown version of him? Perhaps. I didn't plan on it, so most of these legendary requests are for a single model. So technically, if they ask for 2 poses, that would be 2 different model requests. But technically, I mean, you're a rare patron right now, but if you ever do decide to upgrade, you could put that as your request to have this have a second pose, for example. Aloha says, welcome back. Sorry if you've already said this today, but Nasli mentioned about Patreon for learning. I didn't realize that was also available. Yes, it is. Let me talk about that. So I also teach. So I have my students, they subscribe through this program here, and it is one-on-one mentorship with me. So there are, like I have like these videos that show you guys how to sculpt and that kind of stuff, but I don't really advertise that as my mentorship program because what really makes it useful and relevant is that you're talking to me almost every day. I usually facilitate this through Discord, but I'm also doing it over email. I find it easiest via Discord though, because Discord has video features involved. So it doesn't happen very often. I probably only have a video call with a student like once or twice a month. And that's I have a couple dozen students right now. So it's not often, but it's nice having that feature available if I do need to talk to a student one-on-one, give a live demonstration, for example. But yeah, I absolutely love teaching, and if that's a program you're interested in, please ask questions, because I love teaching, and I have students of all different ranges. Most of my students started off as brand new beginners. They had never used ZBrush in their life or any 3D software. But I do have a few other students that are a bit more advanced, and then my mentorship serves to push their art to the next level. So yeah, it does include business advice as well. If you are a freelance contractor and you're trying to build up your own business, I don't keep any secrets. I am happy to share exactly how I got here. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about the mentorship program, please let me know. I think that's a pretty good summary of what it is. So I do structure it with like assignments, and I have videos that I've created for you to watch and that kind of stuff, but really it's about the one-on-one feedback from me. And I don't expect you to know how to do anything. I teach you how to do literally everything. The only thing that I kind of insist on is that you have ZBrush or ZBrush Core. If you're a brand new beginner, you're not going to be able to follow along in Blender because you're just not going to be sure how to use it. All right, let's go ahead and detail the shirt now. A lot of the shirt isn't super visible, so this kind of detail needs to be very heavy-handed to even be noticeable. I'm gonna do these long flowing stripes here. Nice and quick. Excellent. And I think it'd be nice to have some like sweeping lines from his shoulders to kind of give him this lankier look. Excellent. And Non-Sleeper isn't here, but thank you to him for bringing my mentorship program. I try to do my best to like talk about my business and like my art and what I offer here, but I just don't want to feel like one long talking ad, so I forget to talk about it sometimes, even though I know you guys are interested and you don't see it that way necessarily. Aloha says, that's great. Thanks so much for taking time to explain. Yes, of course. I wanted to offer something that's at a more accessible price point too. Like a lot of like mentorship programs that are from like, they're definitely people at a higher skill level than I am, but the price is like, oh my goodness, it's like $700 for like 2 months. And it's very dense and you can get a lot out of it. But the average person that just wants to like improve at like a normal clip doesn't have time to get $700 worth of content out in just a couple months. So I like the way that I have it structured. It's very friendly to a lot of different groups of people. So a lot of these fabric folds aren't going to be visible, but the ones that do pop out, I just want them to have a hard enough edge to where they can catch some paint. All right, I think that wraps that up. Very nice. Oh, I'm really happy with this model so far. All right, so we're working up to this shawl, and there's two big things I want to happen here. One, I want it to lay mostly flush to the body so that it doesn't require a bunch of little supports. And two, I want it to have a very clear, distinct trim that follows these triangle pieces. So let's kind of see where our topology is leading us right now. I was able to insert an edge loop that gives me kind of the thickness that I'm wanting. And now I can go to dynamic and increase the thickness manually here. And I want it to be as thick as I can get away with without it looking unbearable chunky or clipping through itself like this. And I don't have to rely on just this one feature to make it 3D printable. I still have some other tricks I can employ. I think that's a good point. So I'll go ahead and apply that. So this is now a real mesh. I'll go ahead and crease the edges. And in addition, I'm also going to crease these, kind of like this shoulder pad I'm trying to define here. Let's do a quick subdivide and see how that did. Very nice. To run a couple on this side too. Let's just do one. Here we are. Those will more serve as like guidelines when I come back through this in detail. Now let's add that trim piece I was talking about. And to do that, I'm just gonna extrude this bottom poly loop. Came out pretty nice. It's a little sharp in some areas, but pretty happy with that. I'm gonna insert another edge loop here for this collar. Very nice. Now I'm gonna hide all these different segments so I can poly paint them gold. It's kind of like bled over, and the reason it did that is because this is so low poly, and I want that to do a better job. So, let's try that again. I do like the way that subdivision is kind of like goofing up the sharp edges here. But it is causing some artifacts and some problems, so I'm not going to be able to keep it as such. I'll need to add some more creases. And then also going in manually and creasing some of these edges here. Otherwise, it kind of creates these little artifacts on the edge, and we do not want that. You'll see that I'm toggling back and forth between subdivision levels, and that's just making sure that I've removed any potential areas for error. Looks good. Except for right here. See, that's what I'm talking about, like when I subdivide. These little things that are forming, I do not want that. I can fix that by creasing the point just above where the artifact is forming. All right, looks good. Able to add that trim color very nicely. Pretty happy with this. Now let's go ahead and add some details here. Aloha says, when you have a spare chance, could you show what section are those dynamic and thickness options under? I always forget to use them. I'd like to add those to my shortcuts as well. Yes, of course. I'm first finding where it is before I tell you, because again, I forget where they are sometimes. Okay, it's under subtool, geometry, dynamic subdiv. Make sure that was on the screen because I know I have my camera. So again, I'm in the tool palette, not the subtool palette, the tool palette, and then it's under geometry, and then it's called dynamic subdiv. It's one of the first menu options up here. All right, now let's add some of the stitching. This has been such a fun model to work on. I need to be careful with this line right here though, because it needs to all come back to that center point. So I'm gonna redo that really quick. I don't mind having this one right here, that's fine. But these other points need to come back to the collar, just like that. All right, now I'm gonna go through and kind of add some asymmetrical detailing here with like this cross hatching, which is neat because I'm like sculpting a detail that's usually more illustrative, but it's actually working very well in 3D. I need to be careful not to add the same detail on the same arcing line and try to add some randomness to this. All right, looks good. Excuse me. Now we're gonna add in some of these like fine fabric folds, and we'll really build them up on the edges of the shoulders to get that shoulder pad look. Aloha says, the golden trim looks amazing sticking out from the clothing. The stream has been so helpful. Oh, I'm so glad, I really am. And again, ask away, any questions, happy to answer. And I guarantee, anytime one of y'all asked a question, somebody was lurking in the chat thinking the same thing. So I'm going to build up this line here. And whenever you do a fabric fold line that you're happy with, I recommend working at a somewhat like a medium intensity. And if you do a stroke that you enjoy, if you click number 1 on your keyboard, it will repeat that stroke. So that's before and after. So it gives me a lot of flexibility in my lines without having to change my Z intensity constantly. Though it is also pressure sensitive, so you could just push harder to get a bolder stroke. All right, I'm gonna turn off poly paint right now so I can really make sure that these lines are falling the way that I want them to. And the fabric folds are complementing the shape and not convoluting it, because I have these really sharp edges to account for. I'm gonna toy with this like pipe fold-esque patterning here, and I like how it's rippling the edge just a little bit but not convoluting the shape. It is kind of a tricky balance though, so I'm doing my best to be mindful as I work. And there needs to be something happening with this collar, I just haven't really decided yet. You'll notice that I'm not too picky about the way that these fabric folds fall either. There's always like a bit of randomness to it. All right. Looking good. And then I'll be paying some extra attention to the way that the bells are touching the corners here, just to make sure that they're deeply embedded and I won't have to worry about any 3D printing issues. I'm gonna add a bit of a sharper V to this shawl here. It just makes it look more interesting. And I might add some of those chunkier stitches up into the shawl. We also have this interesting piece, which is just kind of like this turtleneck. I imagine it's a continuation of a shirt. And for that, that'll be a really simple close holes, subdividing it quite a lot, and then going over it very heavy-handed with my standard brush. I'll be doing this out of symmetry at a somewhat high Z intensity. I'm just under 50 right now. You'll notice I turn the entire model sideways, and that just gives me, it's a more natural stroke. It's the same way you'll turn your piece of paper when you're drawing. It's just like that. And I'm smoothing out these edges that got a bit muddy. All right, that's pretty heavy-handed, worked out perfect. And what I mean by heavy-handed is I'm not really worried about it coming out perfect because I'm just gonna deform it later on anyhow. Working on all of this out of symmetry. Important note. All right, now I have that nice piece tucking under there. Excellent. Updating the color palette a bit here just to complement the whole model and make it a little bit stronger. This is pretty darn cool. I'm really happy with this. All right, let's go ahead and detail these gloves. I'm really not sure what I'm doing with his hands at the end of this, so I don't want to spend too much time on the gloves. I might just add like a trim piece here, subdivide a few times, and call it a day. If you want to add a little bit of trim piece to an uneven edge, it's usually easiest to insert an edge loop from the inside and then do 2 extrusions like that. I'm gonna kind of run through here and just add some asymmetrical lines here. Sometimes I'll grab like an interesting poly loop like that or an edge loop, and even though it wasn't very intentional of me, I like it, so I'm gonna roll with it. They kind of look like rings too, which I enjoy. Looks like I have a little artifact that extruded here strangely, so I'll just smooth that. I was able to smooth that because I have min connected points on my smooth brush to 1. So again, if that min connected points modifier isn't set to 1, that would not work. All right, those gloves look much more interesting. I actually ended up liking those quite a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and throw those gloves into my asset library, actually. Looking good. And finally, let's spend a little bit more time dealing with this mask. And then Gibbons asked, does the patron provide the pictures for references? Only if they want to. They don't have to, though. Let me read you exactly what Aubrey gave me, and Aubrey is a legendary patron. They added this little poem that they wrote, which is super cute, but it doesn't describe the appearance of the model at all. This is what they said. They want an evil usurper jester, sitting sideways upon the throne, crown on top of his jester's cap. So yes, that means 2 hats, with a lute in his hands. That's it. No pictures. And then I went through and I found references, and this one was a little different. I actually talked to them because I was like, hey, there's a lot of different jester hats, and I would like to model it after the one from Darkest Dungeon, because that's a game that I love. And turns out it's one of Aubrey's favorite games too, so that was a lot of fun. Usually you won't hear from me asking questions. I will just model it on stream. But every now and then I don't mind like reaching out and be like, hey, like, do you like this? Because I really want to make sure that I make something that you guys like. I have never had a requester not just absolutely love what I make, but I like to make sure, you know? Legendary patrons are $15 a month, and that's not a small sum of money, so I want to make sure I'm providing a lot of value, and I love what I do, and it literally keeps the lights on. It pays for my horse, it pays for our vacations and our bills, and it's the best thing ever. So I really like to go above and beyond and make sure that I'm holding up my end of the bargain, since you guys are making my dreams come true. Sounds cheesy, but it is literally true. So yeah. Let's give this mask a little bit more love here. We have about 2.5 minutes left on the clock. So I don't want to spend too much. Oh, that mask is so gnarly and cool. Okay. I think something that I need to do here is to actually extrude these teardrop-like shapes. It's gonna catch some paint, and it's gonna make it easier for everyone. And then Gibbon says, wonderful, thank you so much. You are very welcome. Generally speaking, legendary patrons can make 1 request a month, but every now and then I'm feeling generous and I offer a double month. Hasn't happened in a little bit because I need to get through this request board line. There's so many requests. As of now, I'm booked out till February. Though I do offer tickets. If you spend, I think it's $25, you just become next in line. But I'm trying to like up my production so I can get through as many requests as possible too. For most people, waiting a month or 2 isn't a big deal because they simply, they'll request like a model for like their big back evil guy at the end of their campaign. And usually campaigns take quite a while to get there. So there's not much of a rush. Every now and then though, people know they're using the model soon though, and that's why they'll pay for a ticket. Again, I do have plans though to speed this up so everyone wins. I'm always thinking about it. All right, I really want to see how I can get these creased edge lines to complement this model. So I'm gonna start toying with that. I'm being extremely careful not to extrude any thickness. If you use a Z-modeler brush to add thickness to something that doesn't already have it, it will break your whole mesh. It is a nightmare. Don't ask me how I know. All right, let's kind of see where that's getting us when I polish my features. Okay, so that's the before, let's see after. So I can kind of use this to clean up some of these lines. But I have to know what lines I want to keep. Because working from these simpler planes will be stronger and easier to make a clear mask than me just mushing around lines. I think that's going to work out really well, actually. All right, our timer just went off. I'm really happy with the progress that I'm making, and I don't feel like resetting the timer, so I'm not going to. Again, I just do that to make sure I'm staying on track, and this stream has gone fantastic, so I'm not concerned about it. So it's probably news to you guys that I only started live streaming full time about a month ago. So in the beginning, it was really hard for me to figure out like not to get too worn out, because when you live stream, you're always like on, if that makes sense. So I've been working on finding a happy medium, and that's where the timer came in, was to make sure I was finding that. But I'm getting pretty comfortable working and talking and hanging out with y'all. I'm a bit of an introvert in my day-to-day life. I love talking, got lots to say, but I get really tired in social situations pretty quickly. So in the beginning, live streaming kind of felt the same way, but it's been so much fun talking to you guys. And again, because I do these Patreon requests, it's pretty often that the person that requested it will tune into the live stream, and like they're so genuinely excited to watch your model come to life, and it's just such a good time. It really is. Doing requests as my primary business was actually also a new thing this year. Always evolving, always changing. Oh my God, that's so cool. Yes. This is really pushing my understanding of facial forms. Giving him this ridiculous chin is so necessary. Thank you, Taylor, for suggesting this. Freaking cool. Aloha says, the streams feel so cozy and natural, as if you've been doing it for years. Thank you. I think I've always been a bit of a performer at heart. Like, I've always enjoyed telling stories, and in my friend group in middle school, I was always the center of it. Like if I was sick one day, like my friends wouldn't hang out, which is kind of weird looking back. I don't know. Anyway, I'm used to being the entertainer. Like even in high school, like I never went to any parties, but I hosted parties a lot. Again, they weren't wild. My friends and I were really, really mild and really, really chill. But I've always liked being the host and the center of attention, I guess. Ferret says, ooh, nice. Hey Ferret, always good to see you. And yeah, so we're making a Jester today, but not just any Jester. It's a Jester King. So he has usurped the throne, and he'll have a crown on top of his hat, and he'll be sitting sideways. It's gonna be so, and by saying sideways, I mean like this. Pose right here. So yeah, it's gonna be a cool one. At the end of every stream, I look at how long that I streamed for, and usually, you know, it's 1 to 3 hours or something, usually closer to 2 to 3 hour mark. And I'm always blown away that like I talked the whole time during that. I'm like, what the heck was I talking about? Like, I guess I'm just a natural born, not like rambler, but chatter. Which is funny, because in real life, I'd like to think that I'm a little more laconic. Maybe not. My husband would probably be like, no, you talk all the time. Gibbon says, how would you run a combat featuring this type of character? Ooh, really good question. So I imagine, I haven't written a character sheet for this, or stat block. I imagine that the Jester King could not be bothered to actually fight hand to hand, because let's be real, he's a Jester. He's probably agile and nimble and stuff, but at the end of the day, he's more witty and more cunning, right? So I imagine that you would have this model sitting at the top of this castle, right? He's in his throne room, and you approach him, and the entire area is booby-trapped. I think it'd be more of that combat encounter, so it'd be almost like more puzzle solving, and your players having to be creative about how to even get to him in the first place. And then once you actually get to him, I imagine he'd be very, very heavy-handed on poison. So if he does hit you, you're gonna like have to deal with stacking poison effects. But other than that, I imagine his health probably isn't super high. Like he probably has pretty low hit points. He's just really high. Like maybe it wouldn't be armor class, but he'd be hard to hit. I'm not sure how that would function, because it wouldn't just be a bonus from armor. I'm not sure how to work in an evasion mechanic for a boss, but that's what I'm imagining. Gibbon said, it's more of a Loki type, Wicked. Yeah, I like that you ask. I actually don't play a whole lot of D&D, but I listen to quite a bit of it, and I play an immense amount of video games. I used to be embarrassed about that, but I've been way past that point. I freaking love video games, and it has brought me closer with so many people and improved me as an artist, and yeah, I'm proud of that now. I still talk about it in an awkward way because I'm early in the acceptance of this. All right. I want to add some more poly paint and some more features to this mask because it's really starting to come together. And I would like to specifically do that with the curved tube brush. If you are a ZBrush artist or you're just interested in art in general, there's a kind of an interesting technique happening right now. So I'm using a curved tube brush, which kind of looks like this. You can click and drag like this shape, right? But you notice that it's sinking into the mask. So the first thing to fix it, you go to Picker, once Z, continuous Z. And the second thing you do is go to your stroke menu, curve modifiers, enable size, bring up this graph, I know it's a lot, and then flip the vertical so it's a negative linear. And then suddenly, when you do this, isn't that cool? It tapers and follows the mask. So cool. If you're a ZBrush artist and you're like, wait, what the heck, that was so fast, can you explain that again? I absolutely can. I was just more showing it as like a quick, fun demo. Given says, illusions, false images, puppeteering, stuff like that. Yes, no, absolutely. That would be a great way to not just like, it wouldn't just be like a super high armor class. You're right, it'd be like mirror image and stuff. You're spot on. And then Given says in all caps, join us, one of us. Yeah, what kind of games do you play? I play all kinds of stuff. I play the classic like cozy games like Animal Crossing and Stardew, but like my heart and soul is RPGs like Dragon Age series, Mass Effect, Red Dead Redemption. I need to do a proper full playthrough start to finish of Cyberpunk. I have played the whole game, but not before all the patches, so I need to do that again. Witcher 3, what's another huge one? Okami was huge for me. Okami is getting a sequel, by the way. What the heck? Oh my god, never thought that was ever gonna happen. Clover Studio shut down, and then now they've refounded Clover's Studio, which will be producing Okami sequel, or the second one. So freaking cool, so excited. And yeah, obviously Darkest Dungeon, big fan of that. That's what this character is based off of heavily. And then I grew up watching my dad play games like Civilization, which is a city builder, I guess. It's Civilizations. It's just what it sounds like. I'm actually playing Age of Wonders 4 right now, and that has been an absolute blast. I'm just kind of dragging different shapes on here and really seeing what tapers the best. And then I need to do the same thing upwards as well. I'm gonna do Z-remesher in half to make these forms as clean and sharp as possible. See how much nicer that is? So again, that's Z-remesher at half. So I'll half the poly count. And then I can even do polish by features to tighten that up even more. It's not gonna go over his mask. That looks goofy. Let me tuck that in. There we go. Cool, cool. This is coming out really cool. Who texted me? And Gibbon says, in person, mostly 5e. Oh, nice. Yeah, I never found a D&D group I like super fit in with, like in person. I played a little bit online, and I've done 2 or 3 different groups in person, and they were great people, don't get me wrong. But it was kind of weird, so I literally sculpt D&D minis for like a living, and like I print them. Like this is actually, believe it or not, this is an FDM print. If you print at all, you know this is impressive as heck. Don't look at it too close. But this is impressive as heck. Anyway, and like, yeah, we didn't use minis, and like I offered, and I was too shy about it, but I just felt super like overlooked. It felt so weird. Like I didn't need to be like worshipped in the group for making minis, okay? I just wanted to be included and use my art in some way. It was so weird. Like they wanted me to like model their characters as like a statue and like not use it in the game. And I was like, okay, weird. Again, I just haven't really found a D&D group in person that like clicks with me. I recently moved across the country from California and Tennessee, and I've thought about finding a group in person here, but again, I am kind of introverted and shy, so really slow progress on that. Barrett says, Cyberpunk is great. Played it 3 times so far. Ooh. Do you get anxious playing it? The mood for Cyberpunk can be a bit intense. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Cyberpunk puts me on edge. In a great way. I love being stressed. Sounds kind of odd, but like, I thrive in high stress environments. Given says, on Steam, it's Deep Rock Galactic, Baldur's Gate 3, Satisfactory. Oh my god, Satisfactory. My husband is obsessed with that game. I can't believe I haven't played it because it's so up my alley, but I've watched my husband play Satisfactory so much that I just haven't played it. Anno 800? 1800, Anno 1800? I've been looking at buying that game, actually. Oh, would love to hear your opinions on Anno. That's my opinion. I haven't played it, but it looks great. You're going to summon Ricky for saying Satisfactory, you know. Oh, there's Ricky. Yep. Zero Seivert? Never heard of that. But the library is long. I get that. And then continuing, Gibbon says, PS5, my wife and I just have finished the recent Sackboy Adventure game. Oh, have fun. And then, yes, you have summoned my husband. That's Ricky Hoover. Oh, Satisfactory. I have an embarrassing amount of hours on that. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And then Gibbon says, Anna is very good in all caps. Okay, I'll check it out. I also need to make time to play Frostpunk 2. I loved the original game. It just kicked my ass. It was such a good time. I've never had so much fun being stressed and bad at a game in my life. It was such a good time. But by the end of it, you know, I figured Frostpunk out by failing enough. You know, one game that I can't get good at? Souls-like games. I have Elden Ring, and as an artist, I am just absolutely drooling over the artistic decisions and design, and it's so cool. But it feels like I have to treat Elden Ring as a part-time job to get anywhere. I've never left Limgrave. I'm really good at Limgrave now, kind of. As good as I think I'm gonna get. But like, I'm too afraid to leave. Taka's here. Hi, welcome back. Love Baldur's Gate 3. My favorite game for Nier Automata in the Souls games. Okay, I can't believe I haven't played Nier either. Like, Nier Replicant and Automata, I haven't played either. I know I would like them too. Do you have any tips for the Souls games? Maybe I just have a bad attitude. Like, I can only lose so many times in a row before I'm like, this is bullshit. Given says, Frostpunk 2 is on Game Pass. It is pretty good. Very different decision, but it makes sense as the natural expansion from the first game. Everything that I've seen looks really up my alley, and I think I would still like it. It is on Game Pass, but it's not on console yet, and that's primarily where I play. We do have a gaming PC as well, so I could play it there, but I just haven't yet. I'm making a mental note to bring up video games on stream more, because a lot of y'all tend to be gamers too, and it's really fun for me to talk about. As you can tell, I've completely stopped working, because this completely sidetracked me. One of my favorite things to talk about. All right, this mask is looking really strong. I'm really, really pleased with this. His head turned out a little bit wide, so we're gonna narrow this up and make sure to go to the mesh underneath and make sure it's not clipping. Yes, it is. There we go. Clean that up a bit. Oh, there's the cursed base mesh underneath. You're welcome. And now let's start detailing this cap and this cowl. It's really going to bring a lot of this together. And then Gibbon says design, not decision. I got what you meant. It's much more city management, not people management. I wouldn't mind that necessarily. I've also played a decent amount of City Skylines. My husband more so, but still. And then Taka said, okay, it took me 4 hours to beat the first boss in Dark Souls 3. It was my first Souls-like. But I guess for me, it's a joy to finally beat whatever boss I've been stuck on. That makes sense. See, I've never experienced that joy, so the games haven't clicked with me because I'm still just in the absolute sucking phase. And Nier is pure art. It looks like it. Just the movement of the game is just like mesmerizing to watch. And then Ricky says, nope, I'm a neat freak. By the time I get that far, my factory's turned to spaghetti and I can't take it. One of these days I will finally finish it. Yeah, I mean, 1.0 just came out for Satisfactory, so. Gibbons asks, have you considered integrating a TTS system for conversations? It might help with multitasking. I feel like I should know what TTS means. I feel like it's like time tip saver. Can you say what TTS means? It's not clicking for me at all. I'm thinking like FPS, so I'm like, nope, not first person shooter. My brain's just not connecting it right now. And then Gibbon says, then you'll love it as well as Anno. Good to know. Aloha says, Souls games are different to other games. They have their own philosophy of risk versus reward and difficulty. They're masterful games from every level, and their art direction, and the best in the world. I agree. I'm gonna put more time into it. That'll be my New Year's resolution, okay? Ferret says, I run a tabletop game called World of Darkness, Hunter the Reckoning. Ooh. Of all the tabletop stuff I've done, it's perhaps the most tense. It's so rewarding to have a good group, albeit a tiny one. That sounds like so much fun. That really does. I want a good, small group. All the groups I've been in have been like 7 or more people. It's too much. Aloha says, Souls games are my obsession. No kidding. So I've beaten all of them multiple times over. Very good. And then Given says, text to speech. Ah, yes, that makes sense. I should know. I am young and hip. Yesterday was my birthday, in case you guys didn't know, so it feels especially relevant. I'm 28. I don't know how I didn't know what text to speech was. I mean, I could, so I could listen to your guys' input. That's pretty smart, and just have that kind of narrating in my head. That is smart, but I like reading it out loud. That way people that are kind of hanging out and lurking can hear the whole conversation without having to read context. But that still is a good tip. I'm always super open to tips that you guys could recommend to make my stream better. Because again, I'm actually really new to this. I'm getting a little bit done on this mask before I get too sidetracked. Because you guys are being really fun to talk to. Yeah, if you guys could be less interesting and fun, that would be great. It's time to watch Office Space again. Taka says, I actually haven't finished Dark Souls 1 or 2, but 100% Dark Souls 3. Oh, that's interesting. And then Given's talking to Ricky. Ricky, let's hook up on Discord. I'm down to try doing the campaign. That'd be fun. I usually slow down around for oil production. Is there like a multiplayer aspect to Satisfactory? I didn't know if you could do that. That's really cool. And then Ricky on my Discord is Mr. M3DM. I'm going to add a peak to this to make this design a little bit stronger and more clear to read. Yes, very nice. Oh, I love that side silhouette of this mask. This is beautiful. It's just like the small curves and stuff. I don't know if Taylor's still here, but Taylor recommended this shape and it's beautiful. He specifically mentioned it to kind of copy the curve of the boots, and I think that really played out nicely. All right, I need to merge all of these little fun things together, and then I can add thickness to them all at once. But in order to do that, I need to split them off from the bells because it will just deform the bells if I add them all at once. I accidentally merged the gloves, which isn't a big deal. I'll just go with mask lasso, and draw a loop, just like that. Oh, interesting. I don't know what in the glitch is happening right here. Very interesting glitch. We're going to just delete you. Stop being a problem. Yes, go away. And then we can do a mirror and weld. Oh, interesting. What is this piece? Ah, I might have had the gizmo open. Problem solved. And now let's go ahead and duplicate and mirror that bell. The bells will need to be their own piece. Almost done with my subtool management here. There we go, all done. And Given says, like, hell yeah, multiplayer's the best part. No kidding, I don't even know. We'll see. Ricky may or may not take you up on that. Both of us are pretty like in the zone when we game and stuff, and we don't play a lot of multiplayer games, so occasionally he gets into Call of Duty every now and then. And then Ferret says, in a monotone voice, I play games. Games are fun. Yes, games. I mean, hey, you asked me to be less interesting. Thank you. You guys are fun. All right, I don't like this mirror right here actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this piece here. And I'm not even gonna worry about these pieces in the back. We can stylize that later. And for now, let's worry about adding thickness here. These need to be fairly prominent to print well. And I think I'm gonna take a slightly different approach to adding trim. I can do a double extrusion, or I can do a stroke curve and then line this with a curve brush. It'd be fastest to just extrude, so let's see if I can do a double extrusion there and then subdivide and see how that looks. 1, 2, and then subdivide. That actually looks pretty darn cool. We'll let it do that. That's cool. Also, the trim on this is much too small. I might want to just add a larger poly loop. Oh man, this is so cool. I think his eyes are a bit too small, so let's go ahead and open those up a bit. I'm gonna go with my move brush and just pull these to have a stronger silhouette. Again, they're pretty flat on top, and then the lowest point is gonna match up with this teardrop shape. Kind of tricky to maintain that sharpness on the edge here. There we go, the pinch brush cleaned that up for me nicely. And do the same thing with the inner corner of the eye. And I need to lower that brow more. And line up these spooky clown teardrop shape. All right, the bigger eyes look much nicer. And then there's no blend to this hat, these flaps yet, but there will be. It's all coming. Man, that's cool. Oh, that's so cool. As you can tell, I'm quite happy with this character. Given said, I already bugged him on Discord. I love it. Alana says that double extrude for the edge is a Mia signature. It is, isn't it? And I believe someone new is here, Speed Ink Studio. Hi, I feel like I recognize your name, but if not, I believe that you're new, so hello and welcome. Speed Ink says, hey, how are you doing? I hope you're well. I'm doing great. I am sculpting a Jester King for 3D printer. So, 3D printing. So it's a classic like Jester, but he has usurped the throne, so he's going to have a crown in addition to all this Jester goodness. Speaking of, do I already have a crown that I can import here? I can go to my headgear stuff. So this is an asset library that I have created over the years. Everything in here I made. I have a crown, but it's very girly. Let's see if it looks royal enough. Yeah, I even have it labeled as a tiara, but it might be a good placeholder. And of course, it'd have to be like on crooked. There's no way this would be like proper. Yeah, I can make this work. I will need to do some modifications to make it more crown-like and less tiara-like. Stretching it to have more height is definitely a good start. Also gonna make sure I poly paint these teardrops to be black again. There we go. Well, it's been a pretty cool, successful stream, if I say so myself. We're about 2.5 hours in, so I'm thinking about wrapping up the stream here. I didn't pose this one on stream, but I probably will continue this tomorrow. And that will be the end of my streaming week. So again, I live stream Thursday through Monday. So I take Tuesday, Wednesday off is the easier way to think about it. Cool, this has been a really good time. If you're interested in putting in your own requests and deciding what I sculpt next, you can do that. These are all legendary requests on Patreon. And I have the links to all of that kind of stuff in the description of this live stream. Given says, I think a good British crown would be good here, like the velvet dome inside of it. Oh, yeah, that would be really cool. Let me add that to my notes. Oh, look, kind of like this one I have a reference here. Velvet dome, classic British. I have that crown. I've made that before. I have that somewhere. Speed Ink says, I've never been able to work with ZBrush, only in Blender. I find it very complex to navigate. You know, it's so funny because I feel the same way about Blender. Blender is just, it never clicked for me. I never liked it. Taka says, oh, by the way, a little late, but I just remembered, I actually love Nier so much that I'm currently homebrewing a D&D campaign set in the Nier universe. That's lovely. That's so cool. Speed Ink says, beautiful work. It was perfect. Oh, thank you. That's really, really kind of you. Ferret says, enjoy your time off to rest and relax. Yeah, thank you. Again, I'll be back tomorrow, and then I take my my 2 days off. But it's been a great week. It really has. Aloha says, hey Mia, thanks so much for being welcoming. I'm looking to join your Patreon for teaching soon. I would love to teach you. I really would. You've been so warm and clear and with good ideas in the chat, so that would be fantastic. Your style of explaining and teaching really is amazing. Thanks so much for the content. Of course. Thanks for being here. Whether you guys support me on Patreon or become a mentorship student of mine, those are more clear because it's like direct money, but even you guys just being here, watching my live streams and subscribing to the channel, it all helps make this possible, and that's why I can do this full time. So thank you for being here. I live a very comfortable life and you guys make that possible. So again, thank you so much. I'm gonna wrap this up. If you enjoyed the stream, you can like it, but at this point I encourage you to subscribe because then YouTube will remind you when I stream in the future. If you have a really good memory, just know I stream Thursday through Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, pretty much every day. All right, well, that's a wrap. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you tomorrow or in the future. Bye.